I stood at the altar in my navy suit watching Derek slide the ring onto Amanda's finger. The barn glowed with string lights, and the September sun poured through tall windows. My heart swelled with pride. I had given him $25,000 from my savings, so this day could happen. I helped him choose the venue called Caterers and stood beside him through every moment of stress. 6 months later, Derek would stand before our entire family and announce that I had destroyed his marriage. I never imagined my own brother could betray me like that. Before we get into how my act of love turned into a nightmare, drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe, because what I am about to share will show you that family betrayal cuts deeper than any other pain. Now let me take you back to where this all started. Derek and I grew up in a small town in Ohio. I am 3 years older than him. We lived in a modest house with our parents who worked hard to give us a decent life. When I turned 17, our father died suddenly from a heart attack. Derek was only 14. That loss changed the course of both our lives. I stopped being just his older brother. I became the person he leaned on. I became the one who had to step up and fill the emptiness our father left behind. I took on 2 jobs while attending community college, so I could help with bills and save money for Derek's education. I wanted him to have opportunities. I wanted him to go to a good school and build a future. When Derek graduated high school, he got into Ohio State University to study marketing. The tuition was steep. Our mother worked as a nurse, but her income could only stretch so far. I used my savings to help cover what scholarships and loans did not. Derek graduated 4 years later and landed a solid position at a marketing firm in Columbus. Watching him walk across that stage and knowing I had a part in making it possible felt like the greatest achievement of my life. 2 years into his career, Derek called me one evening with excitement in his voice that I had not heard in years. He told me he had met someone. Her name was Amanda. She worked in the same office building as a graphic designer. He could not stop talking about her. He described the way she laughed at his stories, the way she challenged him to think differently, the way she made him feel understood. 3 months into their relationship, he asked if I would meet her. We arranged to have coffee at a place downtown on a Saturday afternoon. Amanda arrived wearing a simple sweater and jeans. She had warm brown eyes and a smile that reached them. She shook my hand firmly and sat down with an easiness that put me at ease too. Over the next hour, I learned that she grew up in a family of teachers, that she loved art and design, and that she valued honesty and kindness above all else. I could see why Derek had fallen for her. They complemented each other. She was thoughtful where he was impulsive. She was calm where he was energetic. I told Derek later that night that I thought Amanda was good for him. They dated for 2 years. During that time, I watched my brother become a better version of himself. He seemed more grounded, more focused. He talked about the future with clarity. Then one spring evening, Derek called me and said he had proposed to Amanda at the park where they had their first date. She said yes. They came to my apartment that same night, their faces glowing with pure joy. I hugged them both and told them how happy I was. They sat on my couch and immediately started talking about wedding plans. Amanda said she wanted something meaningful, not extravagant, but beautiful. A place where they could celebrate with family and close friends, something that felt personal and true to who they were as a couple. Then reality set in. Derek had recently financed a new car. He still had student loan payments every month. His savings account had less than $3,000 in it. Amanda and Derek started getting quotes from venues, florists, and caterers. The numbers climbed quickly. A decent wedding in their vision would cost around $35,000. Derek became quieter during our phone conversations. I noticed the stress in his voice. He sounded tired and defeated. One night around 10, my phone rang. It was Derek. His voice cracked when he spoke. He told me they were thinking about postponing the wedding. maybe waiting another year or two until they had saved enough. He said he did not want to start their marriage drowning in debt just because of one day. I sat on my couch and listened to my little brother trying to hold back tears. I had been saving money for a down payment on a house. It was not a fortune, but it was a solid amount, about $30,000. I thought about what our father would have done. I thought about how Derek had always been there for me in his own way. I thought about what family really means. I made a decision in that moment that felt right in my heart. I told Derek to stop worrying. I said I would lend him $25,000. There would be no interest, no strict repayment schedule. He could pay me back whenever he was financially able to in whatever amounts worked for his budget. The line went silent for what felt like forever. Then I heard Derek crying. He thanked me over and over. He said he would never forget this. He promised he would pay me back as soon as he could. He said I was saving his life. The next day, Amanda called me. Her voice was thick with emotion. She called me a lifesaver. She promised they would both work hard to pay me back. I told her not to stress about the money. I just wanted them to be happy and to have the wedding they deserved. The wedding took place on a Saturday afternoon in September at a restored barn venue about 30 minutes outside Columbus. The weather cooperated perfectly. The sky was clear and blue. Sunlight streamed through the large windows of the barn. White flowers decorated every table. Mason jars held candles that would be lit as the sun set. I stood beside Derek as his best man. During my speech, I talked about growing up with him. I talked about how proud our father would have been to see the man Derek had become. I talked about how Amanda brought out the best in him. Several people wiped tears from their eyes. Amanda cried happy tears. Derek hugged me tightly after the ceremony ended. Our mother came up to me with tears streaming down her face and told me I had done a beautiful thing for my brother. I drove home that night feeling like I had made the right choice. Family always comes first. That is what our father taught us. 2 weeks after the wedding, I sent Derek a text message asking how married life was treating him. He replied with a single thumbs-up emoji. Nothing else. I thought it was a bit odd, but I figured he was busy settling into his new routine with Amanda. Newlyweds need their space. A month passed. I called Derek one evening and invited him out to dinner. He declined. He said he and Amanda were busy organizing their apartment and adjusting to living together. I told him I understood completely. I did not want to intrude on their time as a new couple. Another month went by. I ran into our mother at the grocery store one afternoon. She looked concerned. She asked me if I had talked to Derek recently. I told her we had texted a few times, but nothing substantial. She said Derek had been avoiding her phone calls. He would answer briefly and then make an excuse to hang up. She wondered if something was bothering him. I promised her I would reach out and check on him. That evening, I tried calling Derek 3 times. He did not pick up any of my calls. I sent him a text asking if everything was all right. Hours later, he replied with a short message saying he was really busy and that we would catch up soon. An uneasy feeling settled into my chest. Something felt wrong, but I could not pinpoint what it was. Derek was pulling away. I told myself to give him more time. Maybe he was overwhelmed with work. Maybe adjusting to marriage was harder than he expected. I decided not to push. 3 months after the wedding, our mother organized a birthday dinner for herself. She invited the entire family. Derek and Amanda showed up, but they sat at the opposite end of the table from me. I tried to catch Derek's eye multiple times throughout the meal, but he avoided looking in my direction. When I approached Amanda and asked her how things were going, she gave me a polite smile and quickly changed the subject. The whole evening felt tense and strange. After dinner, as people started heading to their cars, I stopped Derek in the parking lot. I asked him directly if there was a problem between us. He looked at me with cold eyes and said I was overthinking things. But the coldness in his expression told a different story. He got into his car and drove away before I could ask anything else. A week later, my cousin Jenna called me. She sounded hesitant on the phone. She said she was not sure if she should be telling me this, but she thought I deserved to know. She said Derek had been complaining about me to several family members. He told people that I was interfering too much in his life, that I was being controlling, that I was making him feel suffocated. I felt like someone had knocked the air out of my lungs. I asked Jenna to tell me exactly what Derek said. She paused before answering. She said Derek claimed I kept asking invasive questions and checking up on him constantly, that I was making him feel like he owed me something and could not live freely. I could not believe what I was hearing. I replayed every conversation Derek and I had over the past few months in my mind. I had asked him how he was doing. I had invited him to grab food, normal brother things. I had never once brought up the money I lent him, not a single time. I decided I needed to talk to him face to face and clear this up. That weekend, I drove to his house unannounced. Derek answered the door, and his face immediately hardened when he saw me. I asked if we could talk. He did not invite me inside. He stood in the doorway with his arms crossed and asked what I wanted. I told him I had been hearing things, that people were saying he was upset with me. I asked him to please tell me what was going on so we could fix it. Derek uncrossed his arms and said flatly that everything people were hearing was true. He said I was making him feel like he did not have freedom to live his own life. I was shocked. I asked him how I had done that. He said I lent him money and then constantly reminded him about it. I told him I had never once mentioned the money, not even in passing. He cut me off and said Amanda felt uncomfortable around me too. He claimed I asked too many personal questions and made her feel judged. I stood there completely confused. I could not remember asking anything that crossed a line. I tried to reason with him, but the conversation went nowhere. Derek said he needed space from me. Then he closed the door in my face. I stood outside his house for a moment, feeling completely lost. I drove home in silence, replaying every interaction I had with Derek and Amanda. Nothing made sense. 4 months after the wedding, our mother decided to host a Sunday dinner. She wanted to bring the family together because she could feel the tension. The whole family gathered at her house, aunts, uncles, cousins. Derek and Amanda arrived 15 minutes late. The atmosphere started off friendly enough. People chatted and passed dishes around the table. Then halfway through the meal, our mother turned to Derek and asked how he and Amanda were doing. Derek carefully set his fork down on his plate. He looked around the table at everyone and said he had something important he needed to share with the family. The room fell completely silent. I felt my stomach drop. Derek said that he and Amanda were struggling in their marriage. My mother's face went pale. She asked what was wrong. Derek turned his head and stared directly at me. Then he said the words that would shatter everything. He said their marriage was struggling because of me. Every single person at that table froze. I could not process what I had just heard. I asked him what he meant. Derek's voice stayed calm, but every word felt like a knife. He said I had lent him money for the wedding, but then held it over his head ever since. He said I made him feel indebted and ashamed in front of his wife. He said I inserted myself into their private life by constantly calling and texting them. He said I made Amanda uncomfortable with my questions and my presence. He said Amanda told him she felt like she could not have a real marriage because I was always interfering. Then he said his wife was now considering leaving him, and it was entirely my fault. I could barely breathe. My throat felt tight. I tried to speak, but the words would not come out properly. My uncle sitting across the table asked me if what Derek said was true. I started to explain that I never mentioned the money, that I only tried to stay in touch like any brother would. But Derek interrupted me. He raised his voice slightly and said I always thought I was right, that I never listened to anyone, that I had completely ruined his life and his marriage. Amanda sat beside him, staring down at her plate. She did not say a single word. She did not defend me. She did not correct anything Derek said. Some of my relatives looked at me with suspicion in their eyes. Others looked confused and uncomfortable. My mother tried to calm everyone down and suggested we talk about this privately. But the damage was already done. I felt like my entire world was collapsing around me. I had given up my savings to help my brother have the wedding he dreamed of. And now he was standing in front of everyone who mattered to me and painting me as the villain who destroyed his happiness. After that dinner, everything changed. Some family members stopped reaching out to me. Others would ask me careful questions, trying to figure out what really happened without taking sides. I felt completely isolated. I lay awake at night staring at the ceiling and wondering how things had gone so terribly wrong. I pulled out my phone and went through every single text message and email I'd ever sent to Derek since the wedding. I read through all of them multiple times. There was not one mention of the money, not one reminder, not one guilt trip, just normal conversations. Asking how his week was going, inviting him to watch a game, sharing funny stories from my day. Then something clicked in my mind. I remembered Derek mentioning a few months ago that he wanted to buy a new truck. I opened Facebook and scrolled through his profile. 3 weeks earlier, he had posted several photos of himself standing proudly next to a brand new pickup truck. It was a nice one, the kind that cost at least $40,000. My stomach twisted into knots. Derek told the entire family he could not afford to pay me back, yet he had just purchased an expensive vehicle. Something was not adding up here. I decided I needed to dig deeper. I reached out to Justin, an old friend of Derek's from college. I asked him casually how Derek had been doing lately. Justin hesitated before answering. Then he told me something that made my blood run cold. He said Derek had been going out to bars a lot over the past few months. He had been gambling, poker games with high stakes, sports betting. Justin said Derek owed money to several people. He said Derek was hiding all of this from Amanda because he was ashamed and did not know how to admit what he had done. Suddenly, everything made perfect sense. Derek had not been paying me back because he was spending money recklessly on things he could not afford. He bought a truck he had no business purchasing. He gambled away money he did not have. And when Amanda started questioning their finances and why they were struggling, Derek panicked. He needed someone to blame for their problems, so he chose me. He turned me into his scapegoat to hide his own terrible choices and lies. I was not going to let him destroy my reputation based on lies. I started gathering evidence of the truth. I took screenshots of every single text message conversation Derek and I had over the past 6 months. I saved the original email I sent him when I transferred the money for his wedding. In that email, I had written very clearly that there was no interest, no strict timeline for repayment, and absolutely no pressure. I wanted everything documented. I also saved all the photos Derek had posted of his new truck on social media. I reached out to Justin again and asked if he would be willing to confirm what he told me about Derek's gambling. Justin agreed. He said he was tired of watching Derek lie and hurt people. Then I did something I knew I had to do even though it scared me. I reached out to Amanda. I called her phone, but she did not answer. So I sent her an email. I kept my tone respectful and calm. I told her I understood that Derek had said things about me to her and to the family. I said I wanted a chance to share my side of the story and show her some information that might change her perspective. I asked if she would be willing to meet me for coffee. I said it was really important and that I would not take up much of her time. 2 days later, she replied to my email. She agreed to meet with me, but asked that I not tell Derek about our conversation. We met at a small coffee shop on the other side of town where we were unlikely to run into anyone we knew. Amanda looked exhausted when she walked in. There were dark circles under her eyes. She sat down across from me and folded her hands on the table without saying anything. I thanked her for agreeing to meet me. Then I pulled out my phone and showed her everything I had gathered. I let her scroll through the text messages between Derek and me. Months of normal, friendly conversations. Not one mention of money, not one guilt trip. Then I showed her the email about the loan. I let her read every word. No interest, no pressure. Pay it back when you can. Then I showed her the photos of Derek's expensive new truck. Finally, I told her what Justin had shared with me about the gambling and the debts Derek was hiding. Amanda stared at my phone screen in complete disbelief. Her hands started shaking slightly. She said Derek had told her I was constantly asking him about the money, that I was making him feel guilty and pressured. She said Derek told her the truck was paid for with a bonus he received from his company for excellent performance. But there was no bonus. It was all lies. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. She said she felt like she did not even know the man she married anymore. I felt terrible for her, but I also felt a deep sense of relief. The truth was finally coming out into the light. Amanda made a decision right there in that coffee shop. She said she was going to confront Derek about everything. She said she wanted our entire family to know what really happened. I told her I would support her in whatever way she needed. We made a plan together. We would organize another family gathering. This time everyone would hear the truth. Derek would have no idea what was coming. When Derek walked into our mother's house the following Sunday and saw me sitting in the living room, all the color drained from his face. He asked angrily what I was doing there. I looked at him calmly and said it was time to clear up some misunderstandings. Amanda stood up and walked over to stand beside me. Derek looked at her with panic in his eyes. She told him to sit down. He refused at first, but our mother insisted firmly. Everyone in the family gathered in the living room. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. I opened my laptop and connected it to the television on the wall. I pulled up the screenshots of text messages and displayed them on the large screen for everyone to see. I scrolled slowly through months of conversations, normal exchanges between brothers, asking about his day, inviting him to hang out, sharing news about my life. Not a single mention of money anywhere. Then I displayed the email about the loan on the screen. I read it out loud so everyone could hear the exact words. No interest, no timeline, no pressure. Pay me back when you are able to. Then I showed the photos of Derek standing next to his brand new expensive truck. I explained that a truck like that costs at least $40,000. Finally, I shared what Justin had told me about Derek's gambling habits and the debts he was hiding from everyone. Derek's face turned bright red. He tried to argue. He said it was all a misunderstanding and that I was twisting things. But Amanda cut him off sharply. She was furious. She asked him why he lied to her about the bonus, why he hid the gambling from her, why he blamed me for problems that he created entirely on his own. Derek sat there with his mouth open, but no words came out. He had no answer. Our mother looked at him with deep disappointment in her eyes. She told Derek she was ashamed of what he had done. She said he had falsely accused his own brother who had only tried to help him. Other family members shook their heads. Some of them looked angry. Others looked sad. Derek finally spoke. His voice was barely above a whisper. He said he was sorry, but I could tell from the way he said it that he was not sorry for what he did to me. He was only sorry that he got caught. I stood up from my chair. I looked at Derek and told him I did not need his apology anymore. I just needed everyone in this room to know the truth about what really happened. Then I walked out of that house and got into my car. In the months that followed that confrontation, Amanda filed for divorce. She thanked me for opening her eyes to who Derek really was. She said she deserved better than a husband who lied to her face and blamed innocent people for his own mistakes. Derek moved out of Columbus within 2 months. He took a job in another city several hours away. We have not spoken since that day at our mother's house. Our mother still talks to him occasionally on the phone, but their relationship is strained and distant. She tells me she feels sad that her two sons are no longer close. But she also tells me she understands why I cannot forgive what Derek did. At first, the betrayal hurt more than I can put into words. I kept asking myself why I had sacrificed so much of my savings for someone who would turn around and try to destroy my reputation in front of everyone I loved. I questioned whether I had been foolish to help him in the first place. I wondered if I should have seen warning signs earlier. But over time, those painful feelings started to fade. I began to heal. I threw myself into my work. I spent more time with friends who truly valued me and treated me with respect. I started volunteering at a local community center where I helped mentor young people who were struggling. It gave me a sense of purpose and helped me gain perspective on what really matters in life. I learned some hard lessons through this experience. I learned that not everyone deserves your unconditional help and generosity. I learned that you have to set boundaries and protect yourself even when it comes to family members. I learned that some people will take your kindness and twist it into something ugly because they cannot face their own failures and mistakes. Derek could not admit to himself or to Amanda that he had messed up. He could not own his gambling problem or his reckless spending. So he made me the villain in his story. It was easier for him to blame me than to look in the mirror and take responsibility for his choices. I do not regret helping Derek pay for his wedding. I did what I believed was the right thing to do at that time. I acted out of love for my brother. But I will never put myself in that vulnerable position again. I have learned to protect my peace and my mental health. I have learned that walking away from toxic relationships, even with family, is not selfish or wrong. It is necessary for survival and healing. Today I live a quieter and more peaceful life. I do not carry anger toward Derek in my heart anymore. That anger was eating me alive, and I chose to let it go. I just feel a deep sadness about what could have been. We could have remained close brothers who supported each other through all of life's challenges. We could have been there for each other during hard times and celebrated together during good times. But Derek made his choices, and I made mine. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone who has hurt you is to let them go and move forward without them. And sometimes that is also the best thing you can do for yourself. Have you ever been betrayed by a family member you helped? Have you ever been blamed for something you did not do? I want to hear your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more real-life stories about family betrayal and healing. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Remember to set your boundaries, protect your peace, and never let anyone make you feel guilty for doing the right thing. I wish you all strength and healing on your own journeys. Take care.